Hey folks, Copper Thumb here. In today's tutorial, I'm going to show you how to make this incredible dice vault. And as a bonus, I'm even going to show you how to stamp your logo right on the front. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Okay folks, let's start by loading up Blender and saying hello to our old friend, the default cube, before saying a swift goodbye to our old friend, the default cube. Please hit X and delete him from your scene. Then I want you to go to the Scene Properties menu on the right-hand side here and go down to Units and make sure your length is set to centimeters. That's going to be important for all of our measurements, especially for 3D printing later on. Next, I want you to hit Shift and A, and we're going to add a cylinder to our scene. This is important because this is going to be the compartment that our dice sits into. Now, this cylinder, this dice vault is going to have 7 compartments for each of the most common dice that you will use, all the way through D3 through to D20. We're going to start by measuring our biggest dice and use that as the size for all of our compartments. So I got a ruler here, or even better, you can get your hands on some digital calipers. And I have measured this up and I make it to be 2.4 on there. So I'm going to add 0.2 either side just to give it a little bit of wiggle room, making this have a diameter of 2.8. So measure up your dice and then get your diameter. And then when we go into the menu here, we can change the radius to half of our diameter. So mine is 2.8. So my radius is going to be 1.4. The depth, the overall depth of mine was 2.4. I don't need any wiggle room on the bottom, so I'm just going to put 2.4 here. And then for the vertices, I want this to be a hexagonal shape, like this test print I made here, which you can might be able to see there in the bottom corner. So I am going to make the vertices on this 6. Then we can hit Enter and then scroll on the middle mouse button to go take a look at it. And there you see, this is basically going to be our compartment. Now hit Tab to go into edit mode, 3 into face select mode, and then select that top face and then hit X to delete face. Now we have it looking like this. Now, if you hold Shift and hold middle mouse button, you can strafe around your screen. Remember, you can use that to sort of align your view. Now, what I'm going to do is I basically, as I'm building this dice vault, I am going to use a mirror modifier. So I only have to build half the model on one side and it will mirror it on the other side, meaning I don't have to double work, and it will make sure that everything is perfectly symmetrical when we finish. So to do that, I am going to now chop this compartment in half before adding the mirror modifier. So we can do that by hitting Control R and then adding a loop cut here. And then going around the other side, hitting Control R, adding a loop cut here. And then on the bottom, hit 1 to go into vertex select mode, hit that vertex, and then hit Shift to grab the other vertex. And then we're going to hit J to join those together, cutting this bottom face in half. So now, if I hit Z or 7 to go into top view mode, go into the top here and viewport shading, change it to wireframe. Hit 3 for face select mode, and then drag to box select all of these faces on the top, just, making sure you've only got the top one selected, and then hit X to delete faces. Now, if I come out of wireframe and go back into the solid mode, you can see here that we have half of our model. So now we're going to go into the modifiers panel. We're going to go down to generate, down to mirror modifier, and we are going to mirror this on the Y axis. And now if I go into object mode, you'll see that we basically have our full model here, but we have the mirror modifier on. So anything I do to this side is going to happen to the other side. So make sure you only have it mirrored on the Y axis, not on the X axis, just here. And there you have it. Our compartment is made. And next, we're going to make more compartments and then start building the box around these. All right, folks, now that we have this nifty dice compartment, we need to get 7 of these. And instead of sort of, taking this and hitting Shift D duplicating it on the X and moving it along. There's a much easier way we can do this using a different modifier. So if we go into our modifier panel and we go add modifier, generate, and then go to an array, you'll see now that it automatically generates 2 more in a row. Now, the array modifier is incredibly powerful. We can do circular arrays, but for us, we do want to have these all running along in a line. So if you go to our array panel here, we actually need 7 of these. So we can go to count 7. Everything else is exactly as we need it to be. You can offset these. So if you want, we could, to create a little gap here, we could offset these, but we actually don't need any offset right now. So you can leave that set as 1. What we are going to do is take our first model and go into edit mode and take that top edge, go 2 to edge select and take that top edge, and we are going to extrude that on the x-axis. Now you'll see something cool happen here. When I extrude it on the x-axis, you'll see that this edge creates the space that we need. Now, when we do that, if we just bring it out just a little bit, we don't need a whole lot of space there, and make sure that in the array modifier, merge is selected, it will now merge these pieces together and basically creates exactly what we're looking for here, which is our the space between our different compartments. And as you can see now, starting to come into shape, which is pretty cool. Now, in edit mode, if you go to this top mesh edit mode here and select that and select edge length, that way when we're working, if we click these edges, we can see exactly the edge length that they are. Now, what I'm going to do, that's 0.338 centimeters. So I'm actually going to grab this on the x-axis and I'm going to make it close to 0.4 as I can get, which is 0.4. So let's do that. 0.4. Cool. That is great. And I'm doing that just so when I accept this array, which we can do now, I'll go apply, then you can see that we've already generated the lip on this side. But if I go to this side and I grab this little lip, I can then go extrude this on the x-axis, and we want that to also be 0.4. And then grab that a little bit more. Sorry, get it and dial it, get a little bit closer so we can dial that in. And there you go. And there you have it. We now use the array modifier to create all of the compartments. And we've got those connected nicely so we can start to build out the box around these, which is fantastic. All right, for this next part, we're going to need an extension that pretty much every Blender user will say that you should download because it is incredibly powerful and incredibly good. And you can get it right in Blender. You don't need to go online or anything like that. You can just go to Edit, go down to Preferences, and in Extensions, you want to search for something called Looptools. You can see here that I already have it installed. So if you go to Extensions, type in Looptools, accept that and download it, it's going to give us some more mesh manipulation tools that just improve our quality of life when using Blender. And I'm going to demonstrate that right now because we're going to use it right now. So you have this model here. So in edit mode, we go into edit mode. And if we hit this line here and hit Alt and then select, so it selects this entire line across here, what we're going to do is we are going to hit E to extrude that on the Y, and we're just going to bring that out a little bit like so. I actually want to bring it out. I'm going to do this one about, let's see, 0.86. I'm going to bring this out. It doesn't have to be exact, but this will, just to bring it out a little bit so it's off the hexagonal shape. And then if I right click, you'll see now that I have this Looptools menu, which is awesome. And what I can do is I can go down to G stretch and click that, and you will see that it flattens out this line, which is wonderful. Because now we have this actual, cuboid box shape, which is perfect for what we need for our model. With that edge that we have, I am going to hit E, and I'm going to extrude this out further on the y-axis by, I want it to be about 0.4. So you can see the measurements there. There we go. Let's see. It doesn't have to be exact. Let's see. I'm going to go for, there it is. Perfect. And then I am also going to grab this edge, and this edge, this edge, this edge, oops, this edge, and this one. And then I'm going to extrude and scale. And I'm also going to bring these out. Let's see. There we go. Around 0.4. There we go. Lovely. Now this is shaping up to be the perfect internal geometry of our deck box. Now, dice vault. There we go. I do have a deck box tutorial if you want to check that out. Okay. Now, if we select all these edges here, and we hit Y on here on our little gizmo menu, or 3, actually, sorry, 1, we can get into our side view menu. And I'm going to hit E to extrude, and I'm going to extrude this all on the Z-axis and bring this down to sit beneath our, beneath our compartments, which is looking real neat. And then if I hit F to create a face, make sure we have clipping switched on in our mirror modifier. Now we basically have the exact bottom point, or the exact inner compartment, I should say, of our dice vault. The last thing I need to do is just hit 3 on here, and I'm going to extrude this up just a little bit, because this is going to give us a neat little tab to be able to pull this out of the outer casing, which we're going to make next. Okay, now as a reminder, I want you to save your project. Go to File, Save. If you haven't already, put the name of your project in and get that saved up. Now, what we have here in our scene collection, we have the cylinder, which is what we started with. Obviously, no longer a cylinder. That was just the shape we began with. I want you to click on that, and I want you to rename this to whatever you want. I'm going to put this inner compartment, if I can type. Yes, I can. Okay. Now, to make our outer box, as you've seen me do before in previous tutorials, if you haven't, then what we're going to do is basically use the geometry of this to create our outer shell. If you're enjoying this so far, folks, please like, subscribe, hit the bell, do all the good stuff. I really appreciate it. Please check out my other tutorials as well if you are enjoying this one. Okay, so what we're going to do is we are now going to select all these faces. You can do that with box select, or you can individually select them. We are going to hit hold shift and select this bottom face too. We are also going to hit shift and select these faces and these faces here. And we can also select these faces right here. And then we can hit shift D to duplicate it. You can see here that it's duplicated it. Don't worry about it stretching. That's just the mirror modifier doing its thing. If we hit escape, it's going to duplicate it exactly where it was. Now, if we hit L to just select the linked pieces of what we've got, that's what L does. It's just because those pieces are now separated that we've duplicated. And if we hit P, we can separate that from the other object. So we can separate by selection. You'll see now in the scene collection, we have inner compartment and inner compartment 1 from that piece that we'd selected. Now, go back into object mode, and then make sure that you only have inner compartment 1 selected. And we're going to rename that to outer sheath. Let's do outer sheath. Cool, or whatever you want to call it, outer case or whatever, but I'm going to call it outer sheath. Now, if I hide the inner compartment, you'll see that we have this part that we've made, which is looking pretty neat. Now, if we go into edit mode, we can actually, for this, we can now, let's see, we can select this piece. Actually, you know what we can do? We can apply that mirror modifier. Let's make our lives easier here. We can apply that mirror modifier. Now, if I hit this, let's go into edge select, hit this edge, this edge, this edge, this edge, this edge, this edge. Sorry, this one, and this one. There's also an easy way to do that, folks, just to show you. If you hit this edge and then hold Control and hit this edge, it will follow the path of least resistance to select all those edges. So rather than having to select them individually, hit Control and then hit that one, and it's going to zoom right around there. And then I'm going to hit F to create a face there. Now, if I go 2 into edge select and just select this edge, if I create a face, it's going to create a face running along all of this, following where it would naturally be able to create a face. So right like that. So I can do this all the way along our model to here, because we're going to have to build this out just a little bit. So if we hit select, 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 and again, if we just hit Control and we hit there and then hit Control, it would run all the way around, and then hit F to create a face. That's going to create this nice little bit of geometry there. Now, with that done, we need to add, this is the casing of our compartment, you'll see here, but it's much too thin. It wouldn't print because it has no depth, essentially. It has no thickness. So what we want to do is add a solidify modifier. If you've followed my other tutorials, you've seen me use this many times before. So if we just go into geometry, go to generate, and then we go to solidify, and you'll see that it adds a skin on the top here. Now, if we change the offset to from -1 to, you'll see here, so -1 looks like it's going on the outside and 1 is on the inside. That's actually backwards. That's not the way we want that to go. Now, the reason that is happening is because this model, the normals of all of our faces, which basically means the way that the faces are facing, like every face has is pointing one way. So it has a front face and a back face. We basically need our normals to all be facing out. Now, we can change that really easily. We just hit Shift A to select everything. And then in this top menu, when in edit mode, if you go to mesh and you go down to normals, you can either flip them or you can recalculate outside. You can also hotkey that by pressing Shift N. So when I do this, you'll see that it all pops out the other side. Fantastic. Now, in the solidify menu, you can see that it looks a bit boxy and weird. If we change this to even thickness, that looks a lot neater. But this is also way too thick. You could print it this thick if you want. You want a big, thick case on it, try and make it indestructible. But for me, that's a little bit too much. I am going to bring the thickness down to 0.2. Nice. That looks great. You can see all these numbers still. If you go back into your mesh edit box, and you can get rid of edge length, and there you see we now have this nice clean box around our model, which is looking great. Okay, now if you're like me and you can see just a little bit of deformity on the model here, like this lip is sticking out just a little bit, and same on this side. We can show you another great use for the Looptools extension that we downloaded. Now, if I hide the mirror modifier, or the solidify modifier, just by clicking this little screen button here, and then if I go into edit mode, it looks like this is sticking out just a little bit. Now, I could try and grab this and put it back in line, but there's a even easier way to do it. Now, if I select all of these faces here, and then I right click and I Looptools and I hit flatten, that is going to tuck that right in exactly as we need it. So, and I can do that again on the other side. So grab them all, right click, Looptools, flatten, and now you'll see that that's a perfect shape. And when I reapply or reshow, unhide the modifier, it's now perfectly neat on both sides. Great. And now we can move on to the next part. All right, folks, the very last thing we need to do here to have a complete dice vault is essentially size up our sheath so it's a little bit wider than the inner compartment. Now, if I unhide the inner compartment, you'll see that this is super snug. It would just wouldn't it wouldn't fit. If we printed both of these apart, it would just, because they're right on top of each other, you wouldn't be able to slide it in and out. Especially with the tolerances that we've spoken about before with 3D printing, it wouldn't quite fit right. So what we need to do is I can grab this outer sheath and I can scale that by 1.02, which scales it by 2% essentially. Which is great. If I'm gonna grab the inner compartment, grab this and move it on the X a little bit here. And now you'll see, if we look at this edge, you'll see here that there's a neat little edge running all the way around it, which means when we slide this in and out, it's not gonna have any friction. It's just gonna perfectly slide in really nice. For my printers, I should say. For your printers, you might need to experiment with this a little bit and resize it a little bit to make sure it's dialed in for whatever printers you are using. They're all a little bit different. They all have their own quirks, but I'm sure you'll be able to get that dialed in. And if you wanted to leave it there, your dice vault is completed. But if you stick around for a little bit longer, I'm going to show you how to add some nice patterns to the side and even a logo on the top or any design on the top to really take this to the next level. So let's dive into that right now. Okay, so I have this really awesome dice vault that I've designed, and I want to just add some nice patterns to the top of it. Like, it's all looking great. I love how it's turned out, but how do I dress this up so it looks a little bit more interesting? Well, let's do that right now. So I'm going to hide the inner compartment to start with. I'm going to grab this and I'm going to apply the solidify modifier that I have on here. When I hit shift, you'll see now that I have basically this very simple outer case here. What I'm going to start by doing is I'm going to hold Alt. Sorry, no, I'm not. I'm going to hold Alt and I'm going to click. Oh, that's why I'm not in edge select mode. Go into edge select mode, then hold Alt, and I'm going to click this, and then I'm going to hold Shift, and I am going to select every other one of these bits, every other one of these lines. So holding Alt and Shift, I'm going to go all the way down here, all the way down here, all the way, and then I'm going to hit X, and I am going to dissolve edges, not delete edges. I'm going to dissolve edges, just so I have these neat equidistant patterns here, panels. If I hit 1 to go into side select mode here, I am then going to hold Shift, hit 3 to go into face select and hold Shift, and I'm going to hit these 4 panels and these 4 panels. Actually, I'm going to select all of these and then go to the other side and select all of these. As a reminder, you can do it that way. You can also box select them like that. But then on the top, I'm going to select these 4 and these 4, leaving these blank because I'm going to apply my logo to that a little bit later. So now to add a neat pattern to this, a really simple, awesome geometric pattern we can add is if I go right click and then I hit poke faces, you'll see here that it adds triangles into each of these faces. Now, don't click off, don't do anything. If I now hit I to inset, you'll see that I can inset all of these. And, you know, it might act a little bit weird. Well, what we can do is we can hit inset again, which insets on the individual faces here. And if I bring that in just a little bit, you can see here that I now have this really cool pattern starting to form on our model. Now, if I hit Shift and S, if I hit Alt and S, I can slide these faces. I can shrink these faces. I can either bring them out or bring them in. So I am going to bring them in just a teeny bit, like so. And now when I click off and go into edit mode, you'll see that I have added this really awesome pattern to the top and to the sides of my model. Now, you can experiment with this with poking faces, with extruding other geometry and creating your own different faces. But for now, I am going to leave this really awesome looking pattern on the side. And if I have this here, and I think that looks really rad. So I am going to stick with that for the moment. Hey folks, I have this awesome model I've designed and I want to add my logo to this top panel. Now, how do I do that? Well, it's easier than you might think. So let's do it right now. Now, first of all, you want to take your logo, whatever that might be, and whatever file format that might be, and we need to convert this into an SVG file, a scalable vector graphics file. Now, you can do that very easily by going to a website like convertio.co or some other converter and just convert that into an SVG file and download it. We need that because when we then import that into Blender, it imports as curves, which is something that we can work with. So now if I go to File and I go to Import, and I go to Scalable Vector Graphics down here, .svg. Make sure you don't click SVG as grease pencil by mistake. We need Scalable Vector Graphics .svg. So, and then in this menu, I then select your logo that you've downloaded as an SVG file. And you'll see when you convert your logo to an SVG, it should be all black. Now, don't worry, we can recolor this in Blender, or you can, select that in your slicer and color the parts you want. But for now, we're going to import that SVG into our scene. You'll see in the top panel menu, it's going to come in as a bunch of different curves depending on your model. So in that menu, you can hit Shift to select, click the top one, go to the bottom one, hit Shift to get all those, and then select them all. And then if you hit Control J in your scene, it will put them all together. And now you can see here that I have this bunch of curves added, but as a flat icon in my model. Now, much like other parts of your model, if you hit G, you can grab it and manipulate it. So I'm going to move this up on the Z-axis. And then with a top-down view, so hitting 7 on the numpad, I am then going to hit G, and I'm going to move this on the X-axis. And then I'm going to hit G and move it on the Y-axis. I'm going to scale this down a little bit here. If you don't like the way your model is scaling, you can see here that my pivot point is down here. I can align this by hitting right, and then I can hit Set Origin, and I can do Origin to Center of Mass. And there you go. And now when I scale it, it scales neatly. Okay, cool. So let's grab this on the Y, bring this to the middle, grab this on the X, and basically place whatever your image is, whether it be a logo or some other pattern that you like. And I'm going to put that in the middle of my model. Just move it around a little bit more. Great. And now I'm going to hit G, and I'm going to move it down on the Z-axis until it's sat just in my model there. It's like just within it. Now, if you go down to the right, you'll see this little, it looks like 2 squares with a line, and this is the data properties, and this is where we can edit those curves. So if I click on this, and then I go down to the geometry part here, I can extrude this. So if I extrude this by 0.1 and then hit Enter, you'll see now that it has some geometry, which is pretty cool. If I grab this, you can move it up. You can see here that it's given it some thickness, which is cool. I'm going to bring this back down to where it was because I was happy with that. I'm going to hit G. I'm going to bring it up just a little bit, but I do want to make sure that it's stuck within the model still. Now, what we can do is a tool we've used before, if you've followed my other tutorials, is we can now use the Boolean modifier. So this is still just a bunch of curves. So what we can do is we can right-click, convert to mesh. If we convert this to mesh, now when we click on if we come out of this, this is now a mesh like everything else rather than curves. So if we now click on our model and we do what we've done many times before, we hit generate, we hit Boolean, we hit union, and then we click on our thing. It's still named curve. You could rename this if you want, but basically if we click that, now you'll see that it becomes part of the model. Now, if you see that it has sort of 2 tones going on, that is because our Boolean object is still visible. So if you hide that, which is our curve 5, you can now see that has become part of our model. So I now have this awesome product that I've designed with this cool pattern, and now also my logo stamped on the top. How cool is that? And that's it, folks. We're all done here. And there you have it, folks. You've now designed your very own dice vault with this incredible logo stamped right on the front. Doesn't this thing look beautiful with those patterns on the side? If you want to learn how to make more stuff, I'm releasing new tutorials every week, so please like, subscribe, ring that bell, and keep following me for more. I really appreciate you being here and sticking through this tutorial. We learned some extra things today. And yeah, I've been Copper Thumb. You've been awesome. I'll see you in the next one.